So you had an incredible season last year. I don't know. I don't know else how to like tee it up because it was just. I was like, Aaron shot another giant deer. Aaron shot another. It felt like it was a weekly occurrence there for a while. Did you do anything different last year? Were you more aggressive? Were you more confident? What was it that resulted in such a great season, in your opinion?
I don't know what happened, honestly. I had two trips. I had the Ohio trip and I had the Illinois trip. They were solidified. So it's like, those are going to be like my hunts of the year. And honestly, I think it was confidence. The Illinois hunt. So that one was more of like a trail cam. I wouldn't say a trail cam kill, but it was like MRI that made me go into the spot I did. I was hunting this big deer. I went early October to try to, get lucky. Didn't see a lot of deer. And then the third night, it was really hot. And I saw this deer from the stand, like this big deer. I actually had a cell cam in a different part of the farm, probably 600-700 yards away. 2 days later, he shows up on that camera right after a rain. And I'm like, why is he over there? And it was supposed to rain the next day. And so I was going to get in the night after. It rained again that day and it stopped raining. I got in, going in for that deer. And then the deer I ended up shooting just came out. And I'm an opportunist. So like, hey, bird in the hand's better than two in the bush, in my opinion. So he came out and it was kind of more of like a trail cam, like was telling me where it was hot. And it wasn't even like, I shouldn't say it was hot, but it was like where the shooter bucks were showing up in daylight. So I'm like, why would I not go there?
Lights,
camera,
follow the trail. Ready to shoot.
If you know where a deer's bedding and you know where he's eating, that deer should be dead.
camera.
If you're passive on a deer, what you're doing is you're teaching them.
I've got 30 bucks in the Michigan record book. Everyone but one has had at least one previous wound on his body. Some had as many as 4.
Trail Cam Radio.
From the guys at Exodus.
All right, we're live, and we have Aaron from the Fall Podcast, and really pumped to have you on here today. We've worked together, Exodus and yourself here for what, a year and a half now, maybe 2 years?
Yeah, coming at this fall, will be, we've started year 2 basically in the off season here, but yeah, coming into year 2, man, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah. And so it's funny because I had seen your podcast logo float around before that, because you've been podcasting for how long now? Almost 4 years? Yeah.
So I just wrapped up year 4. So basically March, actually, next week, as we're recording this is the 5th. Next week will be in podcast land, we'll be wrapping up year 4, starting year 5. So it's crazy, dude. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so I had seen the logo and I've seen your podcast art and then got connected and I went through and I've really enjoyed a lot of your episodes here and your flow of podcast. So happy to hijack you here for today and bring that talent here to the Exodus podcast.
I don't know how much talent I got, but I'll come on and fill some space for you.
For sure. So tell us, for people who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from and what you do for a living.
Yeah. My name is Aaron Bliese, like Jake said, from Michigan, born and raised, still in Michigan, central Michigan, Lower Peninsula. I'm a troll, as a lot of people would say, because I'm under the bridge. But, I was born and raised here. Started my podcast, like I said, 4 years ago, been doing that. And then honestly, that was started there was a couple reasons, but I just wanted an excuse to talk to like-minded people about deer hunting. I'm 365 days invested in hunting. As you can see behind me, editing hunts right now for a living. That's what I do. So I live and breathe the outdoors and hunting. I've been working as a television producer for 10 years now, for shows on Outdoor, Sportsman Channel, Pursuit Channel, and digital. So the shift as far as like the digital age is like couldn't be any higher right now. And I feel like TV's on a downward spiral. So I'm focusing a lot on digital content with my day-to-day. And when I need to do linear episodes as far as TV, then I'll jump in and help. That's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah. From the time you wanted to start your podcast and the time you actually pressed publish, how long was that?
Oh, man.
Idea to conception. How long did you sit on it?
2 years, maybe.
Really?
I heard my first podcast in 2015. A buddy of mine was like, dude, you got to hear this thing that's called Wired to Hunt. And he didn't even know the guy's name. It was Mark Kenyon, obviously. And he's like, you're a big Whitetail guy. You should listen to it. And at that time, I'm like, what is a podcast? Like, had no idea what it was. Not a clue. I listened to it and I think it was like episode like 62 or something. It was like Mark Drury, probably one of Mark's Kenyon's like most downloaded podcast, I would say, because I've listened to it like 100 times, but it was Mark Drury. He had him on and I'm like, I'm invested. And then it like kind of slowly grew. And it got to the point where I was like, man, I kind of want to do something on my own. Like I want to do something that like is a release from work, but I can talk to people and, you know, learn more. And I wanted to grow as a deer hunter as well. Like I'm a below average deer hunter. I want to learn from the guys that can teach me things that are on an elite level. And I honestly, my goal was to like record like 10 episodes before I dropped one. But I'll tell you what, when I recorded the first 2 or 3, I sat on those for a long time. Like I was so nervous to put them out. I'm like, I don't know how people are going to react. Like, no, is anybody going to listen to it, download it? And funny story, I recorded 5 episodes right after I recorded those. We had a trip, Chris and Casey, and we went to Kansas on a turkey hunt. Well, the landowner, the property that we leased, the landowner, he's a big cattle farmer. Well, he was doing a controlled burn. Well, controlled, quote unquote. And we were out turkey hunting and he burnt our truck down and all of our stuff, like everything was in the truck. I lost my laptop. I lost all my podcast stuff, the gear, all the episodes I, recorded, nothing had hit the air. And I'm like, it was a bad deal, dude. I lost, the only clothes I had was the camo I was wearing. We lost all of our cameras, but 2. We lost all the footage we had shot that week for turkey hunting for TV. It was a bad deal. Chris, his truck burnt down. Like it was crazy. Well, all that stuff that I was recording, gone. And I was going to start like rolling them out. So I had to go back and record all those episodes again. And I'm like, dude, this sucks. So I sat on them for a while.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny because I'm sure those first 5 people, like you go back, like, yeah, it's like my dog ate my homework, like my truck burned down with all the files. Yeah. It's so random. That's so crazy.
Yeah. And the first ones that I recorded, obviously, I did the low hanging fruit. Like I started with my friends. I'm like, let's bullshit. Let's talk a little bit and I want to see how this is going to go. And honestly, I look back at like the first 30 episodes I've ever done. I started in a closet in our old house. Like I did it in a closet with pillows on each side of my head. And we had a new baby at the time. So I'm trying to be quiet and I'm like so monotone and I'm like, yeah. And now it's just like, you get better as you go.
For sure. Yeah. It is almost embarrassing to go back and listen to other stuff. But anyway, so as you kind of have gone through the ranks of media changing, so editing television shows and producing them into now more digital, like online, more streamlined content, do you have a preference on which you prefer to edit between the two?
Digital 100%.
Is there because there's less requirements and like all those different, like you have to do a commercial break or rough cuts?
100%. And I just love the rawness. Like we did stuff on such high level. Like the first year Rival Wild TV show we did, everything was shot on a tripod. Frame rate, like slow motion was like a new thing then. Everything was frame rate. Drones were just coming out and it was like so high end, which is very cool and still has a place in my heart. I love the vlog style raw. Like if you got to shoot it on your phone real quick. One piece of advice that I watch Gary Vee a lot. You know who Gary Vaynerchuk is. So I like listen to him a lot. He's really inspirational to me. And one thing that really hit home for me was like content's content, like get it out, like just get content out. Like if you like it, who cares if anybody else likes it? Don't worry about likes. Don't worry about downloads. It'll come. Just be consistent, get content out and do it how you want to do it. That's a hard hill to come over. Is like, you always think about what somebody on the other side is going to think about it, what they're going to comment on it, if they're going to like it or whatnot. I do it. If I look at it and I like it, I put it out. And for the majority, like the most part, like people dig it all. Like they really like it. But the digital side of things, I love the rawness. I love shooting it. I'm a king of like convenience. I want it convenient. This thing right here can shoot like good video. I did a scout trip on a piece of public this spring and I shot it all with my phone. I did buy like a $40 mic for it and it made the audio so much better. Shot it in 4K, edit it, put it up. And it's like, nobody knows the difference. Convenience is king. In my opinion, I feel like if you're not making it convenient for yourself, it's just going to get old and you're not going to want to do it and you're going to burn yourself out. That's where I'm at with it.
When we were at the Harrisburg show. I think it was 2019, and we recorded a bunch of podcasts, and like we have all this podcast equipment, and then we pull out our freaking iPhone and record it. And if you go back and look at all those videos, it's recorded on my iPhone, and it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it worked well. It's like we didn't need a fancy camera at the time. I mean, and also in the world of podcasts, like we were, is anyone actually going to watch these on YouTube anyways?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's funny. Making it easy to do it definitely cuts down the barrier of like, well, I don't have the battery charge. I don't have this. I don't have that. Like, well, let's not do it. Let's push it back. And it is definitely seems to be just doing it. So I think a lot of people, I think editing is one of the greatest ways to get into the industry and follow your passion in the outdoor space, because in a lot of ways, there's a lack of great talent in that category. I would say you're probably in high demand. So as you've gone through the ranks in this career, I mean, if someone's listening to this and they're dying to get into the space and work around hunting, what could you tell them?
Dive in head first, learn how to tell a story. Editing is one thing as far as like making it look good, but it starts in the field. It's on all in how you shoot it. Because if you don't have the shots that you need, then you're kind of polishing a turd in a way, like, and you only can polish it so much. I mean, the best way to get.
And you've done field and post, obviously, in your career.
Yep, I still do it. I still do in the field stuff, post, and I've been blessed to be able to edit a majority of my footage throughout my career. Like I'll go shoot it and then I get to edit it, which made me grow as a producer, as a editor, like tenfold immensely, because I come back in the edit bay and it's like, crap, I didn't get that shot. Like, I'll never forget that. Like, I need to get that. So my storytelling got better when I was looking at my footage in post, because I wasn't forgetting things. I will say, like, to kind of go back to your story or your question of like, how would they get into the industry, or, doing editing and everything like that? Learn a program first. In my opinion, I don't know. I like an iMac or a MacBook or something like that. There's iMovie. Go learn that. Go look, or buy the Adobe suite, get Premiere, learn those. That's like half the battle, because I know when we have editors come in, I don't want to babysit. Like, I want you to know at least the basics and how to run the program. And then all the other stuff will come, ingesting footage and putting it on a timeline, like in the storyline. That is easy. You got to learn the program as much as you can. But getting in is like, from when I got in 2011 and 12 into the industry, it was so hard then. Like, it's way easier now. Like, I went to college for it. Now, like, I work with 3 guys that never went to school for it. And they're just as good, if not better than I am. Like they, it's just doing it. The best thing to do is go out and do it. Get yourself a camera, get yourself a laptop, go do some stuff around your house, go film yourself and start learning it that way. And then come to someone, a TV show or a digital show, and be like, hey, I'd love to, try to edit some of your stuff. Do you have, be an intern or something like that? Once you know it, and they don't really have to babysit you. That's the big thing. Like in the industry, is like, nobody wants to babysit anybody. So learn it and then go try to find someone that you can help out a little bit, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And I'm glad you brought up that, man, you did have a harder path, because at that point, it wasn't as accepted just to have a degree from YouTube University on video editing. Like, you went through the proper channels, college for 3-4 years, and then rolled into it. And are those folks younger? Did they just pick up editing and they just has gotten better and self-taught and only learned on YouTube, basically? Or
one's older, and he went to a lot of our video schools, and I knew him like right when I got into the industry. He was actually a guide a hunt that we were on, and we got to know each other really well. And then he like wanted to do the video thing. So he's very like motivated in the way of like, he'll go buy all the cameras and just start going and learning them. And that's what he did. And then he went to a couple of video schools. He went to Heartland Bowhunter Video School. He went to a couple of ours, and then he went to an editing school, and he just kind of learned that way. But then that was in like 2013 or 14, where it started getting easier, and it was all networking then. Like, it was weird how the tables turned, and it's like, you just need to know people. Like, get in, go to a video school, get to know some producers, and you'll be on a list. You know what I mean? You might not get a job right away, but you'll be on a list like, hey, we need that guy. So we started using him as a freelancer, just going out and filming. And then it got to the point where he just loves to travel and film. He can edit. He doesn't really like to edit. He'd rather travel, which I've kind of morphed into. Like, I used to love to travel, but now I've got a kid, a wife. I'm a homebody. I'd rather him go film it all, bring it back to me. I'll edit it till the cows come home. Like, I love making a story and post. So he did video schools, and then the other two were just, self-taught. Like, they just picked up cameras, and it's not all about how like motivated you want to be and how much you want to learn and put into it also.
Just like anything. I mean, that's what it boils down to. So you've done almost, when this goes live, probably 215 episodes of your podcast. That's a boat.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That is a ton.
It is.
And so that's a lot of conversations. And so I have to ask you, out of all the interesting folks you've talked to, is there one lesson or one guest that just is earmarked in your brain of like, ingrained of a lesson that you learned from them, or a tactic or anything that really just clicked for you?
Man, that is a loaded question, because there's been a lot of good conversations. I will say, I recently did a podcast with Aaron Bliese. You guys know Ryan?
Yeah.
I started talking to Ryan, and he's like, hey, I want to do something on confidence and how to be confident in everything you do with hunting and in life. We did that, and he opened my eyes. That guy, he was probably the most like head turner to me when I talked to him. I do want to go back and say, throughout the 4 years I've done this, the biggest thing I've picked up on is to be open-minded to different things. I've morphed my hunting style in the last 4 years. Like, I flipped it on its head. I used to be the guy that is like, put the food plots in, do the land management. Now I do it to an extent, but I used to be like sick with it. Like I had to put the plots in, I had to put the summer plots in, I had to put the fall plots in, I had to hunt those plots, I had to do them this. Dude, the last time I put a food plot in was probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And it's not even a thought anymore. Like, I might go broadcast some clover for some frost seeding. But honestly, that's it, because in my instances, I was doing more harm than good. I was in there more. I wasted a lot of money because I'd go do a summer plot, deer would kill it, so I've really morphed my hunting style and being more adaptable. And like, I did a podcast with Dan Infalt a while ago, and we're talking about hunting farm country, and that's something I'm really passionate about now, is like getting into the farm country stuff. But like, I like the Pottingers, the Ciscos, the Heath Ciscos, like those guys that are not good at just one thing. They're good at like a well-rounded, all encompassing.
Drop them anywhere. Drop them anywhere. Exactly. They're going to drag out a big deer.
Yep, I agree. And I will say one thing, going back to Aaron Bliese, one thing he told me that like really hit home for me is like, don't try to be the best at every phase of hunting. Like, really hone in on like being a really good rut hunter if you want to be. And once you've conquered that, go to the next. Like, don't try to boil the ocean. That was huge. And because I go into every fall, like, I got to get it done right now. Have to do it right now. And he's like, don't do that. Like, if you're a really good early October hunter, like, really hone that in, and then really start working on some of your other weeknesses once you've got that dialed. And I'm like, that's key. That's really cool.
That's really good advice. We've had the pleasure of talking with Ryan a handful of times, and he's an easy guy to talk to, and it has a lot, guy scouted like 80 or 90 or 100 miles this postseason. How many people are doing that?
Unbelievable, dude. Yeah. I like squeaked out like 25 miles, and I'm like, this is a lot, and I'm like, but I've got a lot of other stuff going on, obviously building a home and podcasts. And now I'm producing another podcast for my boss. So we've just got that off the ground. So like, that put a lot on my plate as well, because like logistically now it's like, for my podcast, I know what I have to do to get it done. And it's like, you'd be shocked of like it from the outside. It looks like I spend like every waking moment doing my podcast, but I really don't. Like, I'll go and I'll feel like Monday, I'm recording 2 podcasts on Monday. I'm recording one on tomorrow. I'm recording like 4 in one day. I try to like
batch them up.
Get them all. Yeah. Batch them up. And then for like 2 months, I might not record a podcast. It's not that long, but like a couple weeks, I might not record a podcast. And I get messages like, how are you doing so many podcasts? I'm like, well, if you just like set aside a day and can really logistically figure out who you want to, where they're going to fall in line. Like I might have record one that's going to happen in 3 weeks. Well, what's going to happen in 3 weeks? Where are we at? So if it's like first, July, like we're getting trail cams out, then I'm going to talk to somebody about how they deploy their trail cams first. When's that first card pull? Like, what do you,
where do they put it?
Yep. I might record it in March, but it's going to go live then. So it's like logistically trying to figure that out.
So is your boss hosting it, or are you co-hosting it, or basically he presses record and sends you the files? Yep.
So Mark Peterson is my boss. He owns Worldwide Trophy Adventures. Mark as well. And so he's got a podcast called The Journey Within now. And his podcast is all about his experiences. He travels all over the world. If you guys haven't seen his Whitetail cribs, you should go look at his Whitetail cribs. It is unreal. He travels all over the world. He's been blessed to do that. He's positioned himself to be able to do that. And I get to chase him. But yeah, you'll hear me on some episodes. And you'll also, sometimes I might host an episode for him because he's gone a lot. Like if he can't get to it, like we've already recorded 10 episodes before we even got one out. Like for him, we're trying to stay 4 to 6 weeks ahead. So it's like, who can we record with when he's home? And if you can't, like, I don't want to be week to week with him. Like I can be week to week. Like if I need one Tuesday, I can record one Monday night and get it out for Tuesday morning. I've done it. So him, it's not so much that.
Yeah. There's been a handful of times where I'm out and about, or someone's like, man, who's that guy in Michigan that you had on Whitetail cribs? And it is all shocking. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Well, that's pretty cool. That'd be interesting because that guy has traveled all across the country, and it's going to. Do you want to talk quickly about his project that he's basically the Super Slam, or the Triple Threat Super Slam?
Yeah, he's doing it's called Triple Threat, and he's trying to do, I think it's called the Super Slam. I believe. I just
pulled it up on the website. Yep. Triple Threat Super Slam of North American Big Game Species.
So 29 big game species, and he's going to try to do 3 of them. He's trying to do one all with a muzzleloader. So kill 29 big game animals with a muzzleloader, with a bow, and with a rifle. He's going to try to do all 3. I think he's almost done with one of them. We're going to Saskatchewan end of this month for a bear. And I think that will complete one. I can't remember.
He's 20, according to his website, he's 25 of 29 for rifle. So I don't know the last time it's been updated.
Yeah. So I think he's going to complete that one after Saskatchewan, I believe. So he's doing that. But within that, I mean, like right now, the footage you see behind me, I'm editing episode that's going to go on digital, on Mark's digital page on YouTube, and it's a Pierre David deer. So these, I didn't even know they existed. He went to Argentina a couple weeks ago and shot this Pierre David deer, which is pretty cool. It's the antlers on them look like a backwards caribou, and I've never really, they almost look like somebody drew their antlers, like a kid drew their antlers. Like it's really weird. But also we have a project that we've been filming this last year that we're going to start rolling out in this fall, is his deer slam. So I'm producing his whole deer slam. He's got, I'm going to get this number wrong. I want to say there's 32 subspecies of deer, and he's going to kill all of them. And then we're going to roll it out as a digital series. So that's pretty cool. I mean, down to like red brocket deer in the jungle, like
a bunch of stuff I have no clue even exists.
Dude, I didn't know. Like when you say deer to me, I'm thinking mule deer, whitetail, coos. We went to Mexico for a Carmen whitetail, which is kind of like a smaller coos deer, which was a really cool hunt. I got to see the world record coos deer, or not coos deer, but Carmen whitetail. So that was really neat. But like just some different stuff. And I like that. Like, I've been so turkey whitetail oriented. It's like really cool
Midwest,
to go see, get out and go see some of these other things.
Which when you got into this line of work, did you ever think you would be on this level of endeavor? And quite frankly, could easily be a piece of hunting history down the road.
No. I knew I'd travel, but I thought it would be more like just like Midwest states. Let's go kill some whitetails and some turkey. And, you know, since in the last 10 years, I've been to Italy pheasant hunting. I've been to New Zealand, red stag hunting, fallow deer hunting. I got to kill a sheep in New Zealand. It was pretty cool. On the South Island of New Zealand. I've been to the Yukon a couple of times. I've been to Alaska 5 times, every Canada province, hunting mule deer, like been around all that. I've got to see a lot of cool things. And I'm going to Peru next month with Mark, and he's doing a South American waterfowl slam. So he's going to kill all the waterfowl species in 2 trips, one to Argentina, one to Peru. Like, get to see these cool birds that I've never heard of. And, you know, I never thought I would ever do this. Like a kid from a little town in Michigan, like, you know, my town that I grew up in was real little. You know, my brother-in-law calls me a piss ant from Wademan, because this little town in Wademan, that he's like, now you've made something into yourself, you know, and it's pretty neat. Like, I never ever thought I'd be doing stuff like this. And honestly, I take it for granted more now. Like, I really got to pinch myself and just be like, dude, look what you're doing. You know, you podcast, you sit at your desk and edit every day, and it goes on TV and it goes on digital. It's like, what else could you ask for? Right.
Yeah. That's human nature to, I think, take things for granted. And it is good to wait, but like, this is what you wanted to do. Why are you stressing about it? This is exactly what you wanted to do.
Yeah. When I was 16, I told myself I wanted to do this, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in all of your travels, what has been your favorite place just to be at? Well, it does not have to be necessarily hunting specific, but out of all your travels, you know, regardless of where, you know, they've kind of drug you, just from a pure tourist or just scenic level that you enjoyed the most?
Man, New Zealand, the Wanaka Valley of New Zealand is pretty hard to beat. Free range tahr hunting, a Himalayan tahr. That was one of the most epic adventures I got to go on. The guys that I was filming, they killed this Himalayan tahr, and when it fell down the mountain, it died in a waterfall. And when we went down to get it, like literally, I remember sitting under a waterfall that nobody has probably ever been in or under. And we're just like taking this moment in, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? You know, this is not like, I can't believe it. That was, man, that was a good one. And the other one that really sticks out to me is hunting billy goats in the Northwest Territories back in 2014. It was a helicopter hunt. We got helicoptered in, and we were hunting at like, I don't know, 12 or 13,000 feet. And we were camping on like a rock. There was a rock face, but we were camping on like the only green patch in this whole area. But around us, you look like straight up around us is all rock face all the way around. And we're spotting from out of our tent, we're spotting these billy goats on the sides of these mountains that shouldn't even be able to walk on the side of these like rock faces. Man, I'll never forget the first time I saw the first billy goat, and I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. And then we had a pack of wolves come by us, saw a couple grizzlies, and I'm like, whoa, this is neat. You know, and then a couple days later, we were actually on a caribou hunt. We got moved to a different spot, and we got charged by a black bear, a female black bear. She bluff charged us a couple times, and then she came the rest of the way, and our guide had to take care of that. So that was a pretty cool experience too.
Wow. So, and then I guess in terms of if you had to tell someone to go on a crazy hunt or one of your favorite hunts, what is your favorite hunt? Is it an exotic hunt like that? And I say exotic meaning out of the United States, or is it, like whitetail nut? Like, oh, you got to go to Iowa.
No, dude, you got to go to Iowa.
That puts things in perspective.
Yeah. But that's like the default answer. So I'm not going to give you that. But
okay.
I honestly, that's tough. I'm a whitetail guy, so I'm going to say go on a whitetail hunt. But I just booked my my bucket list whitetail hunt for next year for 23, and that's a Saskatchewan whitetail with my bow. Wow. That to me is like my holy grail. If I can go up there and be able to kill a chocolate rack, big bodied, old northern like buck with my bow is, I don't know. That might top my Iowa trip. I don't know. It's hard because
Iowa treated you well
man.
that last time you were out there. Treated you real well.
And the thing is, I was talking to Chad out in Iowa the other day. He called me and we were kind of BSing, and he's like, when you coming back? And I'm like, well, I'll draw on 24, I think now, because with the point creep, I don't think I'll draw with 3 again. And that farm that we leased, like we don't have it anymore. So I'm like kind of looking again, but I'm excited to go back. And honestly, I'm kind of glad I had the hunt I did, because now everything's just like, let's go have fun. Yeah. And like whatever happens kind of thing.
For sure. It's funny you bring up the Saskatchewan hunt as a dream whitetail hunt, because I remember as a kid like watching Jim Shockey on TV and just all those dark rack bucks, and yeah, that seems pretty special. And you plan on doing that with your bow?
With my bow, and it'll be later November, like before right before Thanksgiving. So it's probably gonna be really cold. So it'll probably be from the ground blind over alfalfa bale, which I don't care. Like I just want to be able to take a good representation. I want a big bodied deer. Don't even care the antler size. Like just want a big chocolate, big neck bodied, Saskatchewan deer. And that's what I'm looking for. So
any other plans for next year? I guess personal plans, obviously you're going to be traveling all across the world, but what do you have in store next year?
For this upcoming year, 22?
Yeah, 22.
22. I don't know if I'm going to travel out of state of Michigan. That might be, it's giving me my first time in like, I don't know, 10 years that I didn't travel. I might shoot down to Ohio and try some public, but I've traveled so much for hunting that I've kind of like haven't been able to hunt much here in Michigan. And my family farm, I haven't killed a buck on it since 2016. I've kind of neglected it, and I've been really diving deep back into that. And I had a buddy of mine come up and help me scout it. He's never been on it, never gave him any information about it, nothing. And he kind of broke it down, how he'd break it down, and really opened my eyes to some new things. So I'm really excited to like dive back into that. So it might be just all Michigan this year, man. And my goal is just to get on a good buck at my family farm. And it's big woods. It's 218 acres of all timber. So we'll see. It's tricky to hunt. It's difficult to hunt. And I'm going to, the Troy Pottinger mock scrapes, like,
oh, nice.
I am big on those right now. Like,
how are you not after you listen to him? I mean,
I could have Troy read me the Bible probably, and I'd just love it.
That's funny. Yeah. So that's going to be a change of pace for you big time. If you're staying home and not traveling as much. I mean, so do you have to travel a bunch with work, obviously, throughout 2022 during that?
I'll be in Kentucky for the opener with Mark. And then I go to Africa in November. So that was kind of like, I was going to go to Kansas if I was going to draw. I had a trip with my buddies planned for that time, and for when I'd be going to Africa, and I didn't know the whole Africa thing was happening. And then it happened there. So kind of work is take precedent for them. They're going to go, I'm not going to be able to go. So I put in for a point for Kansas this year and hopefully draw next year. That's what I'm hoping. So yeah, it'll be a change of pace, but honestly, I think it'll be kind of neat as far as like just relaxing a little bit and stay close to home. And I want to get my wife back into hunting. She's a big bow hunter. And since we had our daughter in 2017, she hasn't bow hunted yet. So she got a new bow this year. And I kind of want to get her back in the saddle and no pun intended. And
literally.
And, well, she did used to hunt out of a saddle and really liked it. She's kind of afraid of heights, but it made her not afraid of heights. So, but get her back in a tree and see if she can get a buck down.
That's really exciting. So, and that kind of brings up, always looking in the future, but just a quick glance in the past. You had an incredible season last year. I mean, banner. I don't know. I don't know else how to like tee it up, because it was just, I was like, oh, Aaron shot another giant deer. It felt like it was a weekly occurrence there for a while.
Man, I don't know what happened. Honestly, I was going into last year as like, if I can hunt, I had 2 trips. I had the Ohio trip and I had the Illinois trip.
Mm-hmm.
They were solidified. So it's like, those are going to be like my hunts of the year. And I don't know why the big man was looking down on me and let me do that, but I don't know. I have no idea. I'm glad it worked out, but I'm gearing up for a hard fall.
Sure.
I say that.
I mean, you got to take some level of credit on what did you do anything different last year? Were you more aggressive? Were you more confident? What was it that resulted in such a great season, in your opinion?
Honestly, I think it was confidence. The Illinois hunt. So a buddy of mine has an outfitter down there, and I had a couple, like my father-in-law and then my uncles were going to hunt with him. So he let me hunt a farm. He wasn't outfitting on the farm, and he's like, just kind of do what you want to do, and then he's like, come November, if you're done, I'm going to outfit some hunts on it. I'm like, fine, like, that's cool. So he did have some stands hung on this farm, and he's had that farm for a long time, and I took a lot of information from him, but that one was more of like a trail cam. I wouldn't say a trail cam kill, but it was like MRI that made me go into the spot I did. I was hunting this big deer, and he got killed in gun season. He was a little smaller than I thought. Actually, the pictures were showing, I thought he's in the 160s. He ended up being like low 150s, which is still a great deer. Still a great deer. I went early October to try to, get lucky, and didn't hunt mornings. I've got a thing kind of on October mornings, but didn't hunt mornings. Or no, I did. I'm sorry. I did hunt 2 mornings, and I can get into why I stopped hunting mornings, but didn't see a lot of deer. And then the third night, it was really hot, and I saw this deer from the stand, like this big deer. And I actually had a cell cam in a different part of the farm. This is like, I don't know, different ends of the farm, probably 600-700 yards away. 2 days later, he shows up on that camera right after a rain. And I'm like, why is he over there? Like, this is so weird. And I'm like, well, I'm going to get in. It was supposed to rain the next day. And so I was going to get in the night after. It rained again that day, and it stopped raining. I got in, going in for that deer. And then the deer I ended up shooting just came out. And I'm an opportunist. So like, hey, bird in the hand's better than two in the bush, in my opinion. So he came out, and it was kind of more of like a trail cam, like was telling me where it was hot. And it wasn't even like, I shouldn't say it was hot, but it was like where the shooter bucks were showing up in daylight. So I'm like, why would I not go there? And it was on a bean field, a bottom bean field on a food plot. And he showed up, and it happened. And, with that hunt, I was leaving the next day, but I would say like I capitalized on the weather. I shot that deer after a rain. I shot my Ohio deer after a rain. Like, I'm big on that rain thing.
Why is that? Why do you think it's so effective?
Back Casey shot a deer. I filmed Casey shoot a deer back in Missouri, back in like 2013. We had a really bad rainstorm come through. And as it was raining, we were sitting in the truck, and he's like, when it stops raining, we're getting in, like, immediately. And we got in the stand, and it was wet. I mean, everything's wet. And we get in there, and the deer literally, it was almost like they were just like standing up out of their beds. It was crazy. And he shot a good buck that night. So after that, I started doing research, like I trying to figure out why this was happening. Well, from what I could find on some forums and everything, and some biologists were saying, after a rain, how you can smell like the earth after the rain, like it really, heightens the smell of everything. Well, they were saying like a deer's something in their nose, it kind of like opens up their nose, and everything kind of comes alive, and it kind of gives them like a little shot of like a B12 shot. Like, let's,
dopamine
yeah, it's like a dopamine, like we got to get up and move, like, and like deer just come out of nowhere. And that was a dumb way of saying it, but like I went into the weeds about this, and I kind of like held that in the back of my mind. And then I heard some other guys like Justin Hollinsworth talk about like how he likes to hunt the rain, or after rain. Cisco really likes precipitation. And so I started, after it rained, or even if you can sit in a stand while it's raining, like Cisco will tell you, he's like, if you can get in while it's raining and stand it, you need to be in when it's raining. Like you need to, if you know it's going to stop at 3, you get in at like 2:00 and let it rain on you and then be in there. Like that's his big thing. And I got in there and the deer I didn't see a ton of deer that night, but the deer, they got up earlier. Like, I mean, I shot this deer 45 minutes to an hour before even cracking dark. So like they just got up early. Yeah. They just, like in my experiences, they like to get up and move.
Mm-hmm. What was the date? That was in October, right? Like
October 13th.
October. Oh,
yep.
Okay.
And it was, boy, I'd have to go back and look at weather underground, but I want to say it was almost 80 degrees that night.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let it be known the power of rain. So I'll ask you point blank, should you hunt mornings in October?
Situational pending. But like that trip in October, I hunted the first 2 mornings and I didn't see a deer, like a deer. And I started, after I pulled a camera, I realized why I wasn't seeing deer. I was pushing deer everywhere when I didn't know it. I pulled a trail cam and it's like, you see deer just tails up running by it. And I'm like, great, but you're on a trip, you're there for, however long. And it's like, you want to get it done. It's like, you feel like a turd when you don't wake up in the morning and go hunt.
Like, what a bum. You're here to hunt.
Exactly.
You don't even want to do that.
Yeah. And then you feel like, your wife and your kids are at home and it's like, well, you go there to hunt and you're not hunting. Like what? So all this different stuff, but like, it really came apparent to me a couple of years ago here in Michigan. I've got, where I live is all farm country. Dude, I don't hunt mornings. Last year, I didn't hunt one morning here in Michigan. What I do is if I got to take my daughter to school, I take her to school and I drive around for 2 hours glassing. I like to see what deer are doing. In my section, I get more use out of that in farm country and seeing what a deer is and where they go. If I see them going in a little section, I'm going in there. I might go in there that evening or go in there midday. I know he's in there. I like to see deer and what they do in their movements because that makes me learn. Like I'm learning from it, and I can do it from a distance. Andy May always says he's like glassing, glass, because you're not intruding. You can strategically make a move then, and I've just done that, and it's paid off dividends. Now there are times like if you have an area where you can get in the morning in October, it's deadly. I got to think back. I've never killed a deer in the morning in October, so I can't tell you that it works for me. But me personally, from my experiences, I've done more harm than I have good. So I just like to sit back and glass.
Sure. Well, I mean, you shot a giant buck October 13th in the evening, so I think that solidifies it. And you didn't shoot one in the morning. So
right.
Yeah, that's interesting. It to your point, I mean, the key takeaway is obviously that doesn't mean just sleep in and don't do anything. I mean, if you have an opportunity to go glass, go do so. And that's one of the luxuries of farm country. If you are able to see a distance, and if it does go in, a target buck goes into a little 10-acre wood patch in a drainage, well, you got a pretty good idea where it's gonna be bedded all day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very interesting. So you smack a giant in Illinois, and then you go back to Michigan, and then you end up taking a trip to Ohio and shoot another giant. Is that how that season went?
Yeah, basically October 26th, which is my favorite time to hunt. And, that last week of October it's dynamite, man. Like you see the biggest deer on their feet in daylight, just looking for that first doe. And same thing, raining. It had rained where I was going. It had rained for like 3 days straight. And while I was driving down there on a Monday, the 25th, I was driving down there. It's raining the whole way. It's a 5-hour drive. And I'm talking to some buddies on the phone. I'm like, man, I just don't know how tomorrow's going to be. Well, it was supposed to rain all night and then stop at like daylight. And I'm like, it's October 26th. I haven't been on the farm all year. So I'm like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sleep in a little bit. I said, go up there when it's daylight, and I'm just going to do a speed tour. I'm going to look for scrapes. Like I love looking for scrapes that are open in that latter part of October. And my whole thought was, I will know if a buck had hit that scrape that morning because it'll be pawed up. It'll be like the freshest sign. Dude, we went in there, the guy Quentin that was filming me, and we went in there and started looking. I started the low hanging fruit where we've killed deer before, and where I knew was going to be some good stuff. So I looked for scrapes. I wanted to find concentrated deer sign. I want to find the most concentrated deer sign in a small area. Found some scrapes. I found like 20 scrapes, but nothing was like, yeah,
Red hot scrape type deal.
Yep. Put some cameras out as I'm doing it. And the year before that, I filmed Casey shooting a big deer, and this deer, when we tracked him, he had ran into an area that we've never hunted, never been in, nothing. And it's big hill country. Like when you think of Jake Bush in Ohio, like it's that big hill, takes you a while to get back there kind of thing. Never hunted it. And when we tracked that deer through there was so much sign. It was just tore up. And I told Quentin, I said, I want to go back there and kind of snake back there. There was this logging road we could walk one of the edges. And I felt like all the deer were down in the bottoms bedded. And if we stay up high, I feel like that we could kind of find some sign. Well, there was a secondary ridge that wasn't very big that we found, like, I don't know, 8 or 9 scrapes. 2 of them were open that morning. And then there was a whole bunch of rubs, and I'm like, this is it. And went back and got stands. Well, we went back to get some food, get some lunch. And then I said, let's come in here with stands at, like, I don't know, 2:00, hang them and hunt them. And that's what we did. And that deer showed up. He showed up hour and a half before dark and came to 11 yards. And he was coming up there to check that secondary ridge. And he was going to try to check and see if any does or any other bucks had hit those scrapes. And we were kind of like where the scrapes were. We were like right on this side. He came from this way. And like on the other side of where the secondary ridge is, the neighbors have a big bean field up on the top. And I think that was just kind of his path to go up to destination food to check those. And we just caught him earlier. So That was another rain deal. And I don't know why. That one was really confidence, man. Like I've been growing more and more confidence every year on different things of like adapting to different styles and doing something out of the ordinary that I've never done. I'm not gonna lie to you, 3 years ago, I would have stopped at one of those 20 scrapes before and hung a stand and sat it. I would have made it work.
And probably never would have shot him.
Yep.
I mean, that is probably one of the biggest challenges as a whitetail hunter trying to get better, because you have one person on your shoulder saying like, don't go in there and mess it up. And, hunt the edges, and persistence is key. And then there's this other person on your other shoulder, like dive in there and go kill it. Yeah. And it seems like the one on the other shoulder, dive in there and kill it. It seems to have a little bit more success, but it just feels like you're going against the rules a little bit sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I'm getting better at is pushing the envelope more. I was a very, very passive hunter, and Infall will tell you this. And I think it's actually in our intro. In your intro, if you're a passive hunter, I can't remember what he says, but it's
if you're passive on a deer, what you're doing is you're teaching them.
You're teaching them. Exactly. Yep. So I was always like under the impression growing up, if I bust a deer, he's gone. He's going to be in the next section. He's going to be, never see him again. And honestly, since I've gotten more aggressive, even the Hambino in Iowa, I got aggressive on that deer. Yeah. It was like, finally, it was like, okay, I got to move. Yeah. Yep. Relocated, got mobile, and killed them. And my biggest deer have been killed from being mobile and getting aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's definitely a challenge. So, and then kind of briefly here, and then you cap off the hat trick, the trifecta in Michigan. Was that after a rain too, or no?
That was November 3rd. So I killed on the 13th of October, the 26th, and November 3rd. That was not after a rain. It was cold, frosty morning. A doe killed that deer. So I took my daughter to school that day, and I'm talking to a buddy on the phone as I'm driving back home. I was going to do I'll call it a crop tour, because that's what farmers call it around here, is a crop tour. But I was doing like a tour to kind of see where I saw this deer. Was it the day before? Or no, 2 days before. And I tried to get around him, set up, and he was on a doe. And I hadn't seen this deer in a month. And I see him on my property right next to a standing cornfield, and he's in a little grass field. And I'm like, he's fighting off like 3 different bucks. And I'm seeing from the road. And I'm like, I told my buddy on the phone, I go, dude, he's right there. It's the Super 6. I said, I'll call you back. I'm going to go kill this deer. It's what I said to him. He's like, all right. So I went and get all my stuff, and I knew I could get around this deer, kind of come up a cornfield edge and kind of peek around. And I knew he'd be right around there. So when I get to the edge and I'm within 200 yards of this deer, but I can't see him, I left him like 20 minutes ago. So I have no idea if he was even there. All of a sudden I look up, and here comes like 120-inch 8-pointer out of my timber. And I'm like, he's coming right at me at like 13 yards. I see him. He has no idea I'm there. I'm just inside the cornfield. I'm like, opportunist kicks in. I'm like, bird in the hand. So I'm like, this is a slam dunk. I go to full draw. There's a big dirt mound right there. He's going to go on the other side of the dirt mound. He's going to be back like 10 yards. And he doesn't, I'm sorry, you might hear text coming through on my phone. I'm sorry. But he doesn't come out. I'm full draw. I'm like, what are you doing? Well, he turned and walked straight away from me. I'm like, dang it. So I went back, went down, and I was like, well, I got to see if this deer's around here. So I kind of keep edging. I'm in two rows into the corn, and I look out and I can see a doe, and I can't see him. And all of a sudden, I'm leaving details out, but all of a sudden I see like corn stalks just going like this. And he's like coming out of the corn into the field. And I'm like, oh my God, there he is. And this deer, he was 120-inch 8-point. He was a 6-point last year. I just sent his teeth in to get aged. Giant deer. Like he was 250 pounds, I think, on the hoof. Wow. Like he's just a big bodied. I think he'll be 4 probably. I'm like, oh my gosh, this deer is a tank. And that doe, he just was so fixated on that doe, and it let me get into 25 yards, and I ended up shooting him a little farther than that. But yeah, that's kind of how that worked. But that goes to that. I wasn't going to hunt that morning. I was going to glass until and also I like to glass other areas that I can't hunt just to get a gauge on what deer are doing too. Like what are bucks at? Where are we at in the rut? Are they locked down? Are they chasing? Are they out and about? Where is this buck that I haven't seen in a while? He might be in the section to the south. I love just driving around and seeing deer,
So are you bringing binoculars or like a little spotting scope to latch onto your window, or what's that look like?
Oh my Lanta. Sorry, I'm getting so many texts. I'm going to group text.
Popular guy.
I'm taking binos all the time, but this year I just bought a new spot and scope because I needed a spot and scope with a window mount. I see so many deer from a distance that I never can film them, and with the phone scope and everything. So like this upcoming year, that's one piece of gear that I have never had that I was like, okay, once I bought it, I'm like, now I feel like I have every piece of gear that I need. Like I don't have to go buy anything else. Everything is just like a want from there. But yeah, just binos and just driving around. And a lot of people probably see my truck all the time. It's like, what is this guy doing? But I just love looking at deer and seeing where they're at.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Yeah. And so then you close out just basically an incredible season it's very interesting that. Would you say you were pretty aggressive on all 3 of them, quite frankly?
All 3 of them. I was real aggressive. Like, the Illinois deer, when I got that picture, I'm like, I'm getting into the heat of it. I'm getting into the thick. When you see the footage, like I'm going to start putting these hunts out here soon on YouTube, but
on the
when
fall
you see
podcast,
the footage, like
what channel are you going to put them on? Okay.
The fall podcast they'll be on, but I'm waiting until after turkey season to put them out. So, You'll hear me say I was within probably 200 yards of these where I figured this buck was bedding, which a lot of people might not think that's very, very close. I think that's close. Close enough anyway. Sure. And I think that deer really got out of his bed and walked right in my life basically. And then the Ohio deer, I had to be within 150 yards where this deer was bedding because I was on the secondary ridge, and you go down about 100 yards and it just is a thick bottom. And I think he was down in there, having the thermals to his advantage, bedding in that bottom. And then this deer, I just was like, because when I was walking out there to kill my Michigan deer, I have a tree stand that's literally 200 yards from this deer. And I was telling myself, I'm like, go sit in that stand because this doe will bring him by you today at some point, but it might be an all day sit. I told myself, I'm like, screw that, go kill him, So I'm like, that little guy, I kind of like kicked him off and I'm like, let's go. So we went in there.
This is the conversation people need to hear, because I know everyone battles that. And if you don't, I think you're lying. I mean, I think everyone try to toe the line or figure out where that magical line of pushing the envelope too far is. It's challenging.
You got to be okay with screwing up too. And that was something really hard for me to get over. In 2020, I missed a buck behind my house and I shot over his back. And while I was in the stand, usually I'd be throwing my bow out of the tree, basically getting really upset. And it was all on film and everything. And I did some things that day. I saw that deer with a doe, was going to go into my 1 acre and hunt him. And when I was going into the 1 acre, he was in there. So I backed out and I went to a different stand. And I told myself, I said, if this doe, because I'm hunting on cut corn on that other stand, I said, if this doe wants to eat tonight, she'll bring him by me. And she did. Mm-hmm. And after I missed him, I was upset, but I'm like, man, I did everything right. Mm-hmm. I did all my calculations right, except execute the shot. I can't be upset at that. Mm-hmm. That's controllable. I can control the shot, well, to an extent. I can go back and shoot more and get more, in tune with that.
You can control that a lot better than a wild animal.
100%. And I was like, that moment was like, don't be upset. You do this, it's okay. You'll get another try. And from then on, dude, it was like it's okay. Let's just keep going, pick yourself up. Let's keep going and work from there.
Yeah, and that brings up kind of a question here. So do you believe in all day sits in one location, dark to dark, one tree, or are you bouncing around? What's your strategy?
I believe in them. It's something I haven't been able to do very much. And last all day sit I think I probably had was probably 2014.
Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. I haven't, but something that really intrigues me is the guys that are I want to go in at 10 and I want to sit 10 to 3. And when I see my cameras going off here in the rut and most deer coming by at noon, I'm like, why am I not there? Why? But it takes a lot of time to be able to sit all day. I do believe in sitting in one stand all day. But I also believe in, if I'm just off, I'm going to move.
Sure. Yeah.
If I sit in the morning and I see a lot of movement that's 100 yards off, I'm going to get down and move. And that's something I asked Ryan Glitzky, going back to him, is hey, when you're sitting an all day, or you see, how many times do you give a spot? And he's like, well, I'll give it 2 days. But I said, well, what if after that first day, you're seeing a lot of movement just off? Are you moving? And he goes, well, sometimes your instincts got to take over and you just got to move.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. If I see a group of 12 does come through with a couple little bucks, I'm like, yeah, I should probably move over there. So I will move, but that's something going forward. I have to take my daughter to school a lot in the fall. And I've always said to myself, why not take her to school, let it get daylight, go sit in a rut hole from 10 to 3, and then have to go pick her up again? Why wouldn't I just utilize that time? So that's something I'm going to definitely work into the old repertoire, is that.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a podcast I go back and listen to it every single year. It's with Heath Cisco. I know we mentioned him here on this conversation. It's with the Whitetail Legacy podcast. I think it's from 2020. And he basically breaks down his entire rut breakdown, tree standing strategy of he's hunting, XYZ in the morning until X time. And then if he's not seeing anything, he's going here and here. It makes a lot of sense, and it gives a little bit of more conviction that, okay, it is time. It is okay to bounce around and move around. And it's hard to argue his level of success too. So that was, if you haven't listened to that one, I suggest going back and listen to it. Every year I go back and listen to it as a refresher.
Anything Heath Cisco says, everybody should listen to. That guy. Oh my gosh. There couldn't be a more humble guy. That is
yep.
I don't know, dude. He's my spirit animal, and I will always say that. I want to be like Heath Cisco.
For sure. Yeah. He's a awesome guy. As a community of whitetail hunters, we should be thankful and privileged to get people like them to discuss their tactics on a mass scale. And thankfully there's enough hunting podcasts that people can ask them enough different questions to really peel back all the layers of the onion and get an idea of what's going through the brain.
For sure.
But well, that's all I really have here for today. I'll give you an opportunity to close out and plug your YouTube channel. I want to see when are these hunts going live? Summer, fall?
Well, I mean, turkey season here ends first week of June. So it'll be like that June, July, sometime in there. They are already edited. So they're just sitting in my bank right now. And people are like, when are we going to see them? When are we going to see them? And I'm like, we're going to see them soon. So it'll be probably in that June timeframe. I didn't want to go on record saying that, but I guess I'll have to do it now. But people are wanting to see them so bad. And I want people to see them because they're two of my favorite hunts of all time, just because I didn't get the one on Michigan on film because it was like, I didn't have anybody to film me. And I'm like, I'm not going to go self-film myself
on
trying to kill this deer. Yeah. So yeah, they'll go live on my Fall Podcast YouTube channel. And I'm trying to populate that more with more content like reviews. I'm actually working on an Exodus trail cam review right now.
Awesome.
So that'll be going up here shortly. Some scouting videos, just odds and ends here and there, and people are liking them. I'm just trying to build the channel up a little bit. And, I just like putting videos out, but like I said, I like that raw kind of feel. And I told myself, I'm like, I deal with like high end stuff on a daily. Like I don't want to like put music into the stuff as much as I possibly can. Like I just wanted to, I grew up watching the Primos guys and they never had music in their hunts. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like I want to get back to that, So it's just kind of a raw feel. And I've got a lot of hunts from back in the day that I was, killed deer and turkeys that I'm trying to populate up there too. So yeah, go check out the Fall Podcast YouTube channel. And, my podcast goes live every Tuesday morning.
Same. We're competing airwaves.
It's good. It's a good day to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Well, yeah. And we'll link to you here as well, but really appreciate you taking the time. Excited to see how Michigan treats you. It's a tough year to follow. It's like after someone like breaks some season record and they got like, well, here we go.
I had an Andy May year. Now I'm going to just go back to Michigan and probably not kill one. So
now I have more faith in you. So I really appreciate it. We'll link to you. And until next time.